What would you do if you couldn't use social media to market your business? I bet you'd panic, because I do regularly. My social accounts are at constant risk of being shut down, and I have to have a backup plan active at all times in case that happens. I'm Lydia, and welcome to The Business of Bondage. This is a channel where I show you a transparent behind-the-scenes look at a startup with a kinky twist. All of the highs and the lows that come with running a brand like mine, and how I bring in my 10 years of marketing experience to avoid these pitfalls where possible and show other small businesses how they can create strong brands too. In 2022, I launched a brand called Kilter, a brand of BDSM products unlike any other in the market, and we've quickly gained a reputation for the quality of our product and the uniqueness of our design, and I am desperate to expand. Except the issue is I'm entirely reliant on organic social media. I can't run paid ads to scale the business despite me wanting to, and my social accounts are at constant risk of being closed down. I already lost my Instagram account in the middle of last year and I had to start again. My sales dipped immediately, and I had to pedal even harder in the middle of an already severe economic crisis just to ensure I could get sales to pay my bills each month. And in this video, I'm going to give you an insight into that situation. It's one of the unseen hurdles in starting a sex-based business, one that many people aren't aware of, and one that severely limits my growth. If you like this sort of content, I'd appreciate a subscribe. They can censor me for talking about sex and bondage, but surely the business behind that has to be more palatable content for platforms like this, right? The succinct headline is that social media doesn't like brands like mine, ones that talk about sex. We are constantly battling social censorship where our content is deleted for us, we're prompted to delete it, or they remove our accounts entirely. But why is that? Bots can flag our content because we could be showing too much skin, we might not have censored the word sex, or they've just decided there are too many violations and delete the account without really telling us why. And I know you might be thinking it's our own fault for not playing within the rules. Except the thing is, we are playing within the rules that Meta have outlined on their website. These are Meta's actual community guidelines. Do not show imagery of real nude adults if it depicts visible genitalia, visible anus, or fully nude close-up of buttocks unless photoshopped onto a public figure, female nipples unless in the context of breastfeeding or birth, explicit sexual activity or stimulation, intercourse, oral sex, explicit or implied stimulation of genitalia or erections, presence of byproducts of sexual activity, sex toys placed upon or inserted into the mouth, stimulation of naked human nipples or the squeezing of female breasts. And that's all pretty understandable, right? And then specifically when they speak about fetish content, which includes bondage, these are their guidelines. Do not show fetish content that involves acts likely to lead to the death or person of an animal, dismemberment, cannibalism, feces, urine, spit, snot, menstruation, vomit, or bestiality. And who wants that on their social feed when you're eating your cornflakes first thing in the morning? Now, again, these are all reasonable, easy to adhere to. And most brands like mine actually seek to educate and destigmatize, because as a society, until fairly recently, we did shy away from talking about sex, and God knows sex education in schools is poor enough. These factors combined make for very many ill-equipped adults entering sexual relationships. And education is especially important when it comes to BDSM, because that's a community that's traditionally operated behind closed doors, and if you're not educated, then you can find yourself in perhaps some dangerous or traumatizing situations, which is why brands like mine seek to make a point of talking about it openly, to give people an avenue of exploration they aren't ashamed of looking into. So if they were to participate, it would be done safely, which is the most important thing, safety. So going back to those guidelines for a second, we understand we can talk about sex on the platform. We can talk about sex toys, including bondage and fetishes, whether it's anecdotal, educational, or humorous, because it doesn't say anywhere that we can't. As long as we don't show anything that they explicitly said not to post. And we don't show sex toys in use or around the mouth area, but that doesn't mean we can't show sex toys at all. And on the surface, that's progressive. It reflects the society we're living in, where sex is becoming more mainstream. You have shows on Netflix like How to Build a Sex Room, The Great British Sex Experiment on Channel 4, and we're educating ourselves more these days, which is super important. Then what many people don't understand is why Meta don't stick to these own guidelines. Why are accounts that adhere to these guidelines being shut down, and in many cases, livelihoods halted with no cause to contest it? Boudoir photographers showing their portfolios have their accounts deleted, when brands can run lingerie ads with nude buttocks to thousands of people. They're both women in lingerie. So bondage products are a prohibited category of product that you cannot promote in paid advertising on the platform, which is again understandable. But do Meta still take money from brands with deep pockets to advertise bondage products? Yes, they do. That's the kind of inconsistency that is quite hard to understand when I would love to use paid ads to scale my business on the platform, but I can't because I'm prohibited. They aren't. I'll come on to the paid advertising guidelines shortly, but to give you an example of some of the organic posts of mine that have been deleted for supposed violations, I did an educational carousel on impact play and how to do it safely. I'm assuming they didn't like the bit of side boob in the background, so that got banned. I made a reel about what it's like to run a sex brand from home. I just have boxes of glass dildos and bondage laying around the flat, and you didn't even see any of the product. I just made this label and I stuck it on a box, quite obviously to make my mum laugh when she brought her friend round, and the reel got banned just for using the word dildo in a video. And the best example is I made a reel about how Meta are inconsistent when it comes to applying their own community guidelines when it comes to sex positive content, and the reel got banned. As somebody who's worked in marketing for global agencies for the past decade, I know firsthand how big advertisers ask platforms like Meta to guarantee what's known as brand safety, whereby their paid ads do not appear next to any content that is deemed unpalatable, like imagery of extreme war, graphic violence, and sex. But if they're going to blacklist sex positive content for these advertisers, they should be open about this and outline it in the guidelines. But they probably won't do that because that's not as progressive, is it? And why would you admit to that if you want to be a reflection of the society that we live in? And I highly suspect that's why they come down on accounts like mine like a ton of bricks. And that's all I said in the reel that got banned. I was just talking to camera in response to a very recent cull of sex positive accounts that Meta did, and took away many people's livelihoods. The role of social media platforms has changed with time. It's a channel of communication and education and plays a huge role in society, whether you really like that or not. It can be an instrument of great change, education, or great harm, but platforms have a responsibility to toe that line. And we cannot ignore that sex is an intrinsic part of being human, and sex education in schools is pathetic. We aren't taught half of what we need to know to be healthy, sexually functioning adults. And that's why so many people, brands included, want to use social media as a platform to have these conversations, to fill the educational gap that many of us have unless we actively seek to learn. Now, let's come on to paid advertising. That's a fun one, because the guidelines are on screen, but just so you get the gist, you can't promote sexual enhancement, sexual pleasure, but you can promote sexual wellness and health aids. The biggest hypocrisy here is that you say you can't promote sexual pleasure products or focus on the pleasurable part of sex, even though as a society we've understood for a long time that sex is equally about pleasure as it is procreation. And they will take money from brands who want to advertise these products regardless of their own guidelines. So my content is banned for being an educational carousel with a little bit of side boob, but they're letting Headway promote sexual satisfaction and better sex. Rome, they want you to make it wet. The Adventure Challenge 2 ran a lot of ads promoting sexual pleasure and better sex. Then we have Bluebella advertising restraints and floggers. Finally, my favourite ones are Honey Birdette and Intimisa advertising bondage products, and they didn't even need to censor the word bondage or fetish. Those same words I am banned from using without censoring because bots pick them up and flag my content as inappropriate for those words. So whether Meta's issue with sex positive content is that they want to protect their big advertisers, they should say it, but they should make it applicable to everybody. Or if it's protecting under 18s, where is the protection from under 18s viewing these ads? That's the inconsistency that I and most other accounts who want to promote sex positivity find inconsistent. And if it is protecting under 18s, then there are things that they can do to prevent under 18s viewing that sort of content, but it won't stop them being exposed to real-life images of war and graphic violence and mutilated bodies. The imagery coming out of recent conflicts is abhorrent viewing. At the end of the day, I'm one little voice on the internet. And there are so many bigger brands fighting against this too. Intimacy Justice are a great example of an account that routinely highlights the injustices in Meta's ad policy. Meta banned an ad highlighting endometriosis, but will allow an ad promoting erectile dysfunction tablets, as if they aren't both equally sexual health. And in honesty, it's because women's sexual health is penalised more because women are generally sexualised more. But did you know it's not only social media platforms that brands like mine have these sorts of issues with? I can't bank with certain banks like HSBC. I can't use popular payment providers like Stripe, ShopPay, PayPal to make it easier for people to buy my products, and these kind of issues won't be going away anytime soon. So to wrap up, what do I actually do about it? I have backup social media channels I can revert to in case I need to, and more importantly, I drive my followers to channels I own that cannot be taken away from me. This is my website and my CRM, and when it's logistically feasible for me to do so, I want to be appearing at more in-person events for the community that I sell products to. In the next video, I'm going to cover how I use CRM as not only my failsafe, but how I've helped other small businesses implement it too, and how they've seen a 30% revenue increase using the same framework. And if you enjoyed this, please subscribe, please follow along. And if you're following a sex positive brand, please make sure to follow their backup accounts just in case they disappear from the platform.